When the Memphis Grizzlies returned to action on Thursday against the Indiana Pacers, they were rolling early. They were rolling. Everything was going great. And then everything changed. The second quarter happened. Morant was struggling. Jaren Jackson Jr. was in foul trouble and a lot more. We're going to break down what went wrong, but you got to turn the page fast. The Magic are coming up. The Cavs are coming up. We got to break it all down here, right now, on Locked On Grizzlies.
You are Locked On Grizzlies, your daily Memphis Grizzlies podcast. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies. This is a Friday edition of Locked On Grizzlies. As my co-host Joe Molnax loves to say, it's Friday. It's Friday. We got to get down on Friday. And we're going to get down today talking about a lot of things going on with the Grizzlies. Inconsistent performance against the Pacers. We're going to break down Morant's performance as well in this game, and then we're going to preview the weekend slate. As I said in the opening, can't really dwell on this loss to the Pacers too much, because you got the Magic coming up, and then right after that on Sunday, big ESPN game coming up against the number one seed in the East, the Cleveland Cavaliers. So all that will be discussed in today's show. But before we get into all that, remember that your favorite podcast now has a newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Grizzlies Daily Newsletter, the one stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right into your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the all-new free Locked On Grizzlies newsletter. Today's episode is also brought to you by our fans over at FanDuel. Right now, new FanDuel customers can get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. I mean, it just doesn't get too much better than that. But go take advantage of that opportunity over at FanDuel right now. Man, look, it was a tough watch. It was a tough watch, but at the end of the day, the Grizzlies did compete. They did battle, but it was an inconsistent performance. 127-113 loss to the Indiana Pacers. And I remember some people I don't know if people were watching in the first quarter, then they saw the second quarter, and they said, what happened? And that was kind of the theme of the game. First quarter Grizzlies were good. Second quarter Grizzlies were bad. Third quarter Grizzlies were good. Fourth quarter Grizzlies weren't so good. And the thing is, first and third quarter aren't the quarters you probably want to be playing your best. You want to play your best going into the half. You want to play your best going into the end of the game. That's what the Pacers did, and the Pacers end up winning this game. And they earned it as well. The Grizzlies did battle, after, falling behind, the massive hole. They trailed by 19 at the end of the first half. They did battle, got back within 4 points in the third quarter, but then the Pacers hit them again, 7-0 run right after that, and that was all she wrote. But a lot to break down from this performance against the Pacers, and we got to start with the inconsistencies of the game, because what stood out to me was before the game, when we, on our last show, Locked On Grizzlies, when we talked about the keys to this game, and I said defense was going to be really important, because the Grizzlies, they're going to be able to score okay. And they finished with 113. I mean, it wasn't their greatest day at the office, but 113, okay. But anyways, you figured that defense would be the key in this game. And it is in a lot of Grizzlies games, but playing against offense that likes to play as fast as you and things like that, felt like defense would be kind of a deciding factor. Well, as we just said, if you go to the first quarter, the Grizzlies held the Pacers to roughly 40% shooting. They won first quarter by 5 points. You go to the second quarter, the Pacers shot 69.6% from the field. The result of that, they scored 50 points in the second quarter. That's the most points the Grizzlies have ever given up in any quarter in franchise history. 50 points. I remember days, some of y'all will remember, we used to watch those grit and grind days. It take teams early in the third quarter to reach 50, maybe sometimes even late in the third quarter to reach 50 points against the Grizzlies, midway through the third quarter. I don't want to over-exaggerate it, but you get what I'm saying. 50 points in one quarter is something that I don't care if you're on the side that Taylor Jenkins' rotations are bad, or too many guys are playing or whatever the case may be. I don't care who you throw out there. If NBA players, as long as you play with effort, shouldn't give up 50 points in a quarter. So that was ugly. And as a result of that, the Grizzlies went from winning after the first quarter to trailing by 19 points. It was 78-59 at the end of the first half because of that 50-point quarter. But then the third quarter came, and what did the Grizzlies do? Boom. They went on a 28-6 run. Really big run. Went on this run and completely reshaped the game a little bit, right? Came all the way within 4 points at this point after this run. Third quarter. And guess what? Defense. You know what they did? They held the Pacers to 41% shooting in the third. So, again, you're sensing a theme here. The Grizzlies won the first quarter, held the Pacers to 40% shooting. Lost the second quarter, Pacers shot 70% from the field. Won the third quarter, held the Pacers to 41% shooting from the field. Won the third quarter by 8 points. And kind of went into the fourth with a little bit of, okay, we're right back in this thing after trailing by 26 points. We're right back in it. But then, as we said, after the Grizzlies got within 4, the Pacers, boom, 7-0 run. I think the Grizzlies got within 9 one more time late in the third quarter after that. Didn't get within single digits again. Again, the Pacers, really solid job of responding to the Grizzlies' run whenever the Grizzlies tried to have an answer. But this game, look, the defensive inconsistencies were highlighted, and that's something that we've talked about a lot. You know, just the inconsistencies of the Grizzlies' defense, not even just in this game in particular, but over the course of the season. That has been a familiar theme, especially when the Grizzlies have played some of the better teams in the league. The Pacers in this game shot 17 of 45 from three-point range. A lot of open looks were missed. Tyrese Halliburton made 4 three-point attempts. Aaron Nesmith knocked down 3. Miles Turner knocked down 3 and missed some open ones as well. It was Benedict Mathurin came off the bench, 16 points. He made some tough shots, especially going towards the rim. They got Obi Toppin knocking down a couple threes. So some of it's like, look, you tip your hat. But Miles Turner, 17 points, 10 rebounds, 7 blocks in this game. Only shot 6-17 from the field, but 17 points, 10 rebounds, 7 blocks. Hard to overcome that type of impact from the center. So a lot of things went wrong in that department. But I also want to talk about something that I noticed that wasn't too upsetting and I think could kind of lead to positive results going forward. And Taylor Jenkins did start the game off playing more firm rotations. For one, it was a straight 10-man rotation in this game. It was 10-man rotation, and you could tell if you really watch the Grizzlies really closely, and I know our everydayers, I know you're tuned in, I know you're locked in on what's going on, so shout out to the everydayers out there, but you watch the Grizzlies really closely. You notice over the course of the season, there hasn't really been a sense of those are the 9 or those are the 10 that are going to play. It's been 11-man rotations. It's been 12-man rotations. It's been all these different guys getting in one game. Oh, this guy's playing. One guy, oh, look who's the first sub this game. Next time that guy who's the first sub is the 11th sub. So it's like it's all over the place. But watching this game against the Pacers, you could tell like, okay, this is something Taylor Jenkins, his staff, over the break, they sat down and said, okay, this is how we're going to draw it up. This is how we're going to do it. This is how we're going to outline things. And it looked like they had a plan. And why do I say that? Because Jaren Jackson Jr. and Desmond Bane subbed out early in the first quarter. They brought in a couple subs for those dudes. Ja Morant, we haven't seen him get this long of stretches in the first quarter this season. That rotation looked more similar to the old rotations that Taylor Jenkins used to lose. And keep in mind, like, Taylor Jenkins guys never have been 35-minute per game type guys, but it's been more than what they've been playing this season. Usually Ja's around 32 minutes or so. So this looked more comparable to that because Ja Morant, I don't think he checked out to around the 6-minute mark of the first quarter. It's been much earlier, a lot of part of the season. And when Ja Morant and Jalen Wells sort of checked out, Desmond Bane checked back in. So what I noticed and what we noticed is Desmond Bane and Ja Morant were staggered. This is something I've lobbied from since the beginning of the season. Now, also lobbied for, Scottie Pippen Jr. to get some time or whatever. But I get it because if you kind of stagger Desmond Bane with Ja Morant, You're basically saying Desmond Bane is our backup point guard right now. You play him alongside Luke Kennard, which again, Luke Kennard's numbers, raw numbers, have not been as good as they were when he had that stretch in late January, the games against the Spurs and that stretch. When he had that stretch of good games, Spurs, Timberwolves, his numbers haven't been as good. But he looked aggressive in this game to me. I mean, I saw him. He was raising his hands, calling for the ball. He was quick decisions in terms of shooting the ball or passing it or whatever the case may be. But you got Desmond Bane and Luke Kennard as your pretty much your backup backcourt, so to speak. There were some struggles in it. That's kind of when the Pacers bench made its run. But that lineup, bigger sample size, has proven to give the Grizzlies some success. You remember when Ja Morant's missed those games recently, it's the backcourt of Desmond Bane and Luke Kennard that has started and kind of kept this offense playing efficient basketball. So the rotations looked a little bit more firm. Now, when you get into the second quarter, there were some quick subs in there and things like that. I'm like, all right, I can't keep up anymore. But for the first quarter, staggering Desmond Bane, but we're going to give him an early sub around 4 minutes into the first quarter, and then we're going to bring him in probably 4 minutes late with 4 minutes left in the first quarter, and then Ja Morant, sets out the latter part of the first quarter. Then he comes back in early in the second quarter. Made a lot of sense. So I think we should have some patience with how he's going to figure this thing out, how this rotation is going to come. How is it going to, really be figured out? Because there's still a lot of things you got to figure out in terms of who's going to play well with who, the chemistry factor, all of that. But I think it was a positive sign that, to me, the word I use is firm. We saw more firmness in the rotation decisions, and I'm looking forward to seeing how that plays out over the next month or so, because as we said, it's a sprint to the finish line at this point. You came out of the All-Star break, boom, 28 games left. You already played 54. Now you got 27 games left, and you fall into the third seed in the West after this loss. So a lot to break down going forward on what's going on with the Grizzlies. But out of everything to break down, it all starts with the point guard, right? Everything goes with the point guard. We got to break down Ja Morant's performance in this game coming up next here on Locked On Grizzlies. But before we get to that and break down Ja Morant's performance, this episode is brought to you by DoorDash. Look, NBA fans, get ready, because if they swoosh, you save. Thanks to the Dash Pass, every time a player drops 50 or more points in a game, you can score a huge deal the very next day. Look, I'm telling you, the Dash Pass is coming through for us because it's the NBA, right? 50 points ain't too hard to come by for some of these players. But it's simple. If they score 50 in a game this season, all it is, Dash Pass members. You have to be a Dash Pass member. You get 50% off an order. That's up to $10 off the next day from noon to midnight. Look, there's a lot of ways you can take advantage of this, right? You got some late night cravings, because it's from noon to midnight now. If you got some late night cravings, you're watching a late night movie. There's a lot of good movies on Netflix and Hulu right now. I'm watching some good things. But even if you're just watching some highlights, you just need a midnight stack. Use Dash Pass to go grab something, or you can go get it for lunch, or you can do it for a watch party. You want to watch basketball games, you want to watch some Grizzlies with some friends or your lover, or however the case may be. Go get that, use that Dash Pass, and take advantage of this opportunity. If you don't got Dash Pass, here's what you do. Sign up for Dash Pass right now and be ready to save, because when any player scores 50 or more in a game, Dash Pass members, 50% off any order the next day. That's up to $10 off. Just use the promo code NBA50 from noon to midnight after a 50-point game on eligible orders at participating merchants. Must have a Dash Pass account, and it must be active. Terms apply. Visit DoorDash to learn more. Remember, DoorDash right now, DoorDash account is where you go to learn more and take advantage of this opportunity over at DoorDash. Ja Morant didn't have a great game against the Pacers, and some people are concerned. Am I concerned? Quite frankly, you guys know my outlook on these things. I'm a back of the card type person. 5-6 games don't deter me from, okay, look what he's done for his career. This guy won Most Improved. This guy was pretty much an MVP candidate, in recent years. He still has the same athleticism, still has the same skill set. But at the same time, I'm not dumb. I'm not oblivious to what my eyes are showing me. My eyes are showing me that Ja Morant is struggling a little bit. And Ja Morant has much admitted so himself. Uh, this game, watching Ja Morant, what stood out to me after the game, and then we'll backtrack here. After the game was Ja Morant basically vowing to be a better player going forward. If you watch the game, you saw it with your own eyes. If you didn't watch the game, Ja Morant 4 of 15 shooting in this game, 0 of 3 on 3-pointers. He had 5 free throw attempts, went 4 or 5 from the line, but finished with 12 points, 6 assists, no rebounds, no blocks, no steals. 12 points, 6 assists, 4 of 15 shooting. I don't think it's unfair to say Josh kind of lost right now. I don't think that's unfair because he sounded, as such after the game when he was saying, he's trying to figure out what's a good shot, what's a bad shot. He says, when I shoot the ball right now, sometimes it feels like I'm taking a bad shot. When I don't shoot the ball, it's like, oh, you're passing up good shots. So he has to figure that out. When players start talking like that, honestly, that's concerning. Because the number one thing when you talk about what do you want to see from a basketball player on the court, number one is confidence. So you don't, because a subsidiary of lacking confidence is second guessing yourself. You don't want your player second guessing himself. And that's what we saw, right? Ja Morant was second guessing himself a little bit. And that can be a problem. But here's kind of what he said, after the game. He said that he's trying to figure it out, right? He said, I'm trying to, figure it out. And he vowed. He said, I'm going to figure this thing out going forward. And here's the exact quote, so to speak from Ja. He said, I'm just trying to find a rhythm. He said, I'm just trying to find my rhythm, excuse me. He said, I got to do it in a better way. Don't force shots. I'll figure it out myself, though, how to get to the level I was playing at. So there's a act here, and we just touched on the fact that he's trying to say, oh, what's a good shot for me? What's a bad shot? When am I supposed to pass? When am I supposed to shoot? There's a lot going on in his head. As a coach, that should be alarming. Out of every player on the floor, you never want your point guard overthinking the game. He has the ball more than anyone else. He's your decision maker. You can't have your decision maker second guessing his decisions. So as much as what Ja Morant said to me is oh snap, Ja's got to, he's got to get it together. That's when, as a coach, Taylor Jenkins, whether it's Tomas Asalo, whether it's Noah LaRoche, the coaches got to sit down, go into some meetings, go watch some film and say, Ja, look, show him some decisions that he made that were great decisions. This is how we want you to play. The idea of this Grizzlies offense, one of the big, pressure points, or however you want to describe it, is free-flowing basketball. And to Ja to be in this kind of mentality that he's second-guessing himself, that isn't free-flowing basketball, because now you got your point guard second-guessing himself. And it showed in the game. If you watch the game, Brevin Knight really pointed it out, and it's something we talked about on the show as well. Ja Morant got to a mid-range jumper, kind of faded away near the free throw line, cash money, switched it through the nets. And Brevin said, man, if he can make that a consistent part of his game. And I'm thinking the same thing. I'm like, that's the bread and butter right there. Teams aren't scared of Ja from the three-point line. So what? Get to the midi. Because right now, Ja is only giving them one level to really be concerned about. Teams are saying, oh, when he gets to the mid-range, he's going to keep going. He's going to try to drive to the basket. Oh, when he's at the three-point line, he might take 3 of them, but it's not really going to hurt us if he makes 1 or 2. Teams aren't concerned about that part of his game. They're concerned about what Ja can do at the rim. So he knocked down that mid-range jumper and get back to the second guessing himself as a decision maker. I saw 2 in the second half with my own eyes. Ja Morant got to the midi. I'm like, oh, yeah, he's going to take this. He jumps in the air, passes the ball to Zach Edey. Same thing. Got another mid-range jumper. I think it's from the other side of the free throw line, this time on the right side. Goes up. I'm like, uh-oh, he's about to take another mid-range jumper. Passes the ball out. I'm like, man, he's really second-guessing himself. And then after the game, he really confirmed that, because we're so used to Ja being such a decisive, quick playmaker. And he had some plays like that. He had a nice pass to Vince Williams under the basket where the defense was flowing one way. Ja was going another way. So that's one thing for me. Now, the other thing that you want to see is you want to see Ja play through the complaints, right? We talked about it a little bit, and a bad example showed in this game against the Pacers. Ja Morant looked like he was being grabbed and was being grabbed. I mean, his sleeve showed it by Andrew Nembhard coming out of out of bounds play. Andrew Nembhard pretty much pulls his left arm sleeve, Ja Morant's left arm sleeve down. And Ja, while dribbling the basketball, looks over at the referee to kind of show him the arm sleeve. Andrew Nembhard continues to play through the play, picks the ball right out of Ja's hands while he's complaining to the ref, goes the other way. Ja tries to get back on defense, but at that point, the mistake is made. Andrew Nembhard gets 2 points. And that's one of those plays that kind of gets you ripped apart in film sessions because you're always taught, look, you got to keep playing. And Ja's had some examples where he hasn't kept playing this season, and that one just stood out more than some other ones. But getting into the offensive system, and this is something we'll talk more about into detail, later on in other shows. But here's the kind of the theme of Ja Morant's struggles. If you want to simplify what's really going on, because there is some system stuff to this. I don't think this is just particular. Ja's still the same athlete. Ja's still the same finisher. He's second guessing himself with the mid-range jumpers. I don't know if he trusts his three-point shot as much right now. He was over 3 in this game, and his three-point shot has always kind of been an inconsistent part of his game. But if you saw early in the month of February when he had those 25-point games and things like that, it was when he was knocking down shots. It's basically, look, he's not going to be able to score all 25 of his points at the rim, but it's deeper than that. It's bigger than that. We've touched on the fact that who's the Grizzlies player that has thrived the most in this offensive system? It's Jaren Jackson Jr. Who's the Grizzlies player of the last couple years who's graded out as the best individual isolation scorer? Jaren Jackson Jr. This offense, without as many screens, even though there's a lot of ball movement, without as many screens, especially ball screens at the top of the key, beating guys off the dribble is emphasized a little bit more. And a lot of guys are, making those dribble drive moves off the dribble to pass or to penetrate the defense. Whereas in the case of Ja Morant, he's looking to score. He's looking to get downhill. He's looking to get to the rim. And you see it with Desmond Bane, who's a 3-level scorer, right? Desmond Bane can knock down a mid-range jumper. He's going to get down. He'll get to the rim. He's going to shoot very efficiently from the three-point line. In the simplest form, and we'll break this down much more later, but in the simplest form, when it comes to Ja Morant struggles, this offense puts you in a lot more isolation situations, not ball-dominant isolation, top of the key, James Harden, Luka Doncic in their primes type stuff, but more of the, hey, it's just you and your guy on the perimeter. We ain't bringing no screen up here. Beat them off the dribble or kick it to your left, kick it to your right, keep the ball moving. And that's tough for Ja Morant because if you watch Ja Morant closely over the last few years, and we've dived into this has kind of been a theme of his game. He's one of the best in transition. He's one of the best at finishing. He's even had a really good floater over the course of his career. But isolation scoring has not been a strength of Ja Morant's. And this offensive system so far is putting him in a lot of situations where it's like, Ja, go get a bucket. And he can do it. No doubt about it. He's done it at times. He did it in times of this game. But the thing is, you get 4 or 15 shooting in those cases. So that is something we'll dive a little bit more into. But it is a point to make note of that the offensive system in the simplest form right now, they've mixed in some ball screens and stuff. There were some Zach Edey ball screens at the top. And look, teams just aren't going to let Ja score at the rim too. Like, at least nonstop. They're going to force him to knock down a mid-range jump. It was there for him. It was there. He made the one. He passed up a couple. But there were more that were there. I think he took another one as well. That's going to have to be a bigger part of his game going forward. But he's going to be a big part of the Grizzlies game going forward as well, because you got 2 important games coming against the Magic and the Cleveland Cavaliers. No time to really dwell on this loss against the Pacers. We're going to talk about those 2 games coming up here on Locked On Grizzlies. But before we get to those games, remember that today's episode is brought to you by FanDuel. Look, when the game tips off, NBA action is just getting started, and there's no better place to get in on the action than FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. Look, with FanDuel, you can place live bets throughout the game. So even if you miss the opening tip off or you want to bet a fourth quarter comeback or whatever, you can always stay involved in the action. If you're looking for a bigger payout, you guys know this is my way to go right here. You can combine some live bets or you can combine some games and make you the same game parlay, which if it hits right, you're going to see the winnings come in. But look, FanDuel, a lot of great features. Same game parlay is one of my favorite ones. A lot of people love to live bet. All these great features. But right now, new FanDuel customers, all you got to do is you can get $150 after you sign up. New FanDuel customers, go sign up right now. You get $150 in bonus bets if your first $5 bet wins. All you got to do is win a simple $5 bet. You get $150 in bonus bets. Just visit FanDuel.com to join today. Again, that's FanDuel.com for your shot at $150 in bonus bets. Make every moment more with FanDuel, the official sports betting partner of the NBA. Welcome back to Locked On Grizzlies, and we got to dive into the weekend slate because there's no time to really continue to discuss, what went wrong here, what went wrong there. It wasn't a good performance. Flush it, because you got some really good teams coming up here really shortly. But before we get into those teams, a quick another Grizzlies note as well. The Grizzlies waived Johnny Davis. I know that was a decision a lot of people have been asking about. What are the Grizzlies going to do with Johnny Davis? He has officially been released and waived. So Johnny Davis is no longer with the Grizzlies. And as a corresponding move, the Grizzlies signed last year's one of the fan favorites from last season, Lamar Stevens, to a 10-day contract. So real quick here, what this will mean is pretty much Lamar Stevens will get an opportunity over the next 10 days, and Grizzlies got a bunch of games in this stretch. He'll get a 10-day contract. He'll get a chance to pretty much try out, right? Like if the Grizzlies say, you know what? We want to sign him to the rest of the season. That's a very real possibility here. They have an open 15th roster spot after waiving Johnny Davis. And in this case, Lamar Stevens will get the first crack at keeping the spot. He was solid for the Grizzlies last season when everyone got hurt and they needed some guys to fill in. Lamar Stevens was kind of a breath of fresh air for them. So real physical guy, a really good defender, good athlete. Going to be interesting to see how he fits playing with some of the better players on the Grizzlies, after playing with a lot of guys who were on 10-day contracts and all that last year. So really good opportunity for Lamar Stevens, but it's also a good opportunity for the Grizzlies to get back in the right direction. 2 games coming up here against the Magic and the Cleveland Cavaliers. First with the game against the Magic later on, on today, on Friday here. The Magic are a physical team, and we talked about what type of teams that the Grizzlies struggle against. And the Magic pretty much they embody that. That is exactly what the Magic like to do. They're going to be physical, and that's what they did in the first matchup against the Grizzlies. The Magic pretty much beat down the Grizzlies in FedEx Forum. And part of that was because they play with that physicality, they play with that intensity that we said has been a struggle for the Grizzlies. So in so many words, we talk about how the Grizzlies play against physical teams. This is going to be a really good test. This is going to be a very good test. Second leg of a back-to-back. But guess what? Pretty much a lot of teams are playing back-to-backs these days. You're right out of the break. The Magic are also on the second leg of a back-to-back. Talk about contrasting styles. The Grizzlies, number 1 offense in the NBA, 123 points a game. Magic are 30th, 104 points per game. There's a 19-point difference between these two in scoring in basketball. Contrasting styles to a T. But guess what? The Magic might only score 104, but they don't give up a lot either. They don't give up a lot. Can the Grizzlies take control, with their style or whatever? That's going to be something key to watch. These are 2 of the most disruptive teams as well. The Grizzlies are 6th in steals per game. The Magic are 7th. The Magic are 2nd in blocks per game. The Grizzlies are 3rd. Really contrasting styles overall, but both teams very active defenses. The Grizzlies got to play better defense in this game than they did against the Pacers. And, one of the worst offenses coming into the league. Good chance to do that. We know the Magic love to play through Franz Wagner and Paolo Banchero. That's the name of the game for them. They're going to play through those 2 dudes. Those are the offensive weapons. They don't have many more guys on that team who can create their shots and be effective in that way. So that's what the game goes through for the Orlando Magic. And that's going to be the key. But physicality, you talk about the theme of can the Grizzlies beat the physical teams? We saw it against the Clippers. We talked about, there's another one. In the Clippers had the Grizzlies turning the ball over like crazy. So the next game It's going to be on Sunday, and it's a prime time when it's the ESPN game against the Cleveland Cavaliers. And this is a big one in so many ways. One, you got this 3-game slate here against Eastern Conference teams, and I don't think you want to go 0-2 over that stretch. I wouldn't want to go 0-2 over that stretch. 0-3 or even 1-2. I think you want to kind of end this stretch on a good note. So possibly you want to get a win against the Magic, and then you go 1-1. You go into Cleveland. I'm going for the gusto as my possible. You want to go for the win. You got to go for the win. So with all that being said, this is going to be another game that's going to be a really good test of another team that plays physical basketball. But this is about the matchups within the matchups to me. I'm looking forward to this Jaren Jackson Jr. versus Evan Mobley matchup for a bunch of reasons. One, offensively, these two guys are really good examples of, I'm telling you, I love hoopers. I love guys that work on their games and you could see it. Like you can see with your own eyes, like, oh, yeah, he added this to his game in the offseason. Oh, he added that. Just that progression over time. Two real good examples of that. There were doubts at times on both of these players, Jaren Jackson Jr. and Evan Mobley, in the way that their offensive games would progress in the NBA. At one point, this might just be who Jaren is as an offensive player. For Evan Mobley, maybe he's not going to be that number one ranked player out of high school and turn into that dominant offensive scorer. They both are turning down those notes. But then defensively, right? The defensive player of the year race has kind of been flipped. Victor Wembanyama was an overwhelming favorite. I think FanDuel had him at somewhere around minus 2,500 as the favorite entering yesterday. Then he got hurt. He's out for the season. Sending all the well wishes for Victor Wembanyama as he goes through this process. We know that blood clots are nothing to play with. We've seen, players like Chris Bosh have to, shorten his career, prematurely because of the issue with blood clots. So, seems like the Spurs got ahead of this early in this case, and we hope that, it's because Victor Wembanyama is a great young player. Like, this is a guy everyone wants to see him kind of flourish over his career in the NBA. Now, with all that being said, the defense player of the year race is kind of wide open now. And two guys have become separators in the race, and that's Evan Mobley and that's Jaren Jackson Jr. Jaren Jackson Jr. is the slight favorite, and on FanDuel, I think FanDuel has him at minus 115. They got Evan Mobley at minus 110. So if you want to go, Grizzlies fans, you're talking about where you can make these bets matter over at FanDuel. You can get Jaren Jackson Jr. at minus 115 right now. I don't think that's bad odds. But this game will be a good indicator because I know Cavs fans are going to be watching. Okay, they're saying this guy's a better defender than Jaren Jackson. Than Evan Mobley. Let's see what the hype's about. Then I know Grizzlies fans are going to say, okay, Evan Mobley, you think you're defensive player of the year? You got to guard Jaren Jackson Jr. tonight. So let's see what happens. So I'm looking for the matchup inside the matchup, but it's an ESPN battle. A lot of eyes going to be on that. I'm looking forward to that game as well. Your favorite podcast now has a new newsletter. Introducing the Locked On Grizzlies Daily Newsletter, your one-stop for ultimate team and league coverage delivered right into your inbox. Sign up for free now at LockedOnDaily.com. That's LockedOnDaily.com, and start your day with the new free Locked On Grizzlies Daily Newsletter. Appreciate you guys for tuning in to Locked On Grizzlies with me on today. We'll be back for Monday's episode of Locked On Grizzlies, breaking down everything that happened in the game against the Cleveland Cavaliers, and then we're going to touch on this Magic game as well. So look, it's going to either be a really happy Monday, or it's going to be one where we're like, what's really going on coming out of these All-Star breaks? But make sure that you stay tuned for that. And remember that Locked On Grizzlies is free and available wherever you get your podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Amazon Music, Spotify, wherever you get your podcasts. Until next time, I'm Damichael Cole, and we'll see you on Locked On Grizzlies.